Hey people around the world, it's May 22nd. My name's Reagan, your host, the Doom Wizard, and I wanted to cover a few articles today which I felt important. But before I do, feel free to donate and support this channel. It is not sustainable, but only with your support. So, let's start with some perspective checking. Hard to be homeless in this heat. You all know the heat waves in Southeast Asia and India. Well, in fact, there are many, many homeless people trying to exist in this. So, for a quick moment, I'd just like to take a glance through this at the photos because as a photographer, I enjoy good work. And again, exceeded 45 degrees Celsius, in many parts of the country, 1.4 billion people work outside. There's always a risk of being killed by it. They have to reduce their work hours, impacts their livelihoods. Crop failures have been common in recent years as a result of repeated intense heat waves. From wheat to peas to ground nuts, the crop died standing in the fields, burnt by intense dryness and unending drought, says Deva Kumari, a female farmer in Utah. And experts say that excessive heat wave made India vulnerable to displacement due to water stress, coastal and riverine erosion, continued crop failure, and ecosystem loss. For all the people who think that humans can adapt, while all the things that we depend on cannot. So, you think your life is troubling? In case you ever had a inkling to think that it does, it doesn't. Homeless children cool off next to the only electric fan available to 15 families living under a flyover and Mulchand Basti area of New Delhi. Their houses were demolished by authorities who alleged they stood on government land. It's hard to live as a homeless in this heat, a child said. Yeah, you think your life is hard? Okay, this guy makes pots. He makes 2,000 to 3,000 of them to sell in Delhi during the heat wave because it keeps the water cool. They store melons in a somewhat cooler refrigerated area, I guess, wide open. And I don't know what you do for a living, but do you sort trash in blistering hot heat waves? No, probably not. This boy fixes his bike near a Wally looking trash landfill, okay? And then here's the real kicker, right? While billionaires float around on yachts, we couldn't afford to lift the global population up. A 17-year-old homeless girl living with her family under a flyover. There's no privacy, no water, no electricity. Can you imagine life like this in this harsh heat? She asked. Can you, Boomer? Can you? And they serve punch to keep cool, selling electric air conditioners. Just this is the beginning of the end. I wanted to briefly touch on climate and economy for May 20th. I know this is 2 days ago, but 2023 surpassed 2016 as a year with the hottest 60 degrees south, 60 degrees north global sea surface temperatures. More on that in a moment. And just how far above is it? Much higher, and we're not even in El Nino completely yet. Atmosphere is simmering. Global heating has likely made El Ninos and La Ninas more frequent and extreme. Record heat in Alaska yesterday went up to 82 degrees. It's the warmest May spring on records. Alberta, Canada wildfires shows no sign of slowing. Ireland not ready for droughts. This immense rainfall dumped in Italy, causing billions of dollars of damage. Extreme heat wave hit Korea this summer as well. Antarctic sea ice anomaly continues to grow and is a really pronounced outlier for this time of year. Over half of all lakes have seen water level drops. Over half the world's largest lakes have seen a decline in lake water shortage due to climate change. And we couldn't even, okay? We just can't. World can't afford U.S.-style home energy consumption habits. This is a commodities commentary by Gavin somebody. The U.S. is hoping to play a key leadership role. But the global community will welcome American ingenuity being deployed to help solve climate-related problems, but each person in the United States consumes 12.87 megawatts of electricity per year, which is 3.5 times more than the global average, over twice as much as the average person in Europe. In turn, electricity generation is the second largest source of greenhouse gas emissions, accounting for 25% national emissions in 2021. Yet, we need to somehow reduce our consumption. I don't need to go through all these statistics, just do the math. Just think about it. If the trend continues, then electricity consumption totals per person in Africa and other major emerging markets, right? Not societies, markets, are more likely to resemble the relatively low per capita use trends seen in China and Europe because they live in apartments there. But if they try to live like us, then demands could jump twice as much and we'd be toast. Now, what are we going to do? This is the highlight of today's presentation. A video game study shows what people do when the world ends. So think of the last scene in Don't Look Up, where everybody's robbing the grocery stores and whatnot. So, with that in mind, it's hard to study the end of the world because, well, only a few of us seem to know about it, and how humanity would react before it. I have a commentary on this, but this team attempted to find what people would do, and so they made a massively multiplayer online role-playing game, MMORPG, if you were born under a rock in the past 20 years, called Arc Age for their experiment. It's a beta test. They left players to play as normal, competing quests, exploring, leveling up, and hoarding equipment as they wish. It's basically like a real-world simulator. Run around, grab things, get better skills, get items, just like you do in real life. It's very open world, very open oriented. However, at the end of the week, 11 players knew that the server would be deleted and all their progress and characters lost. All right? And thus, the team wrote in their non-peer-reviewed preprint paper, the outcome of penalty of players in-game in the last few days loses its meaning. So, they believe that the depletion of the world providing a good proxy for the end of the world, giving players no consequences to their actions. They believe it would help them answer the age-old question whether humans would abandon moral ideals as the apocalypse looms. So 270 million records of players' behaviors in the game, such as leveling up, quest logs, and to see if the behavior of the players changed when they knew the world was ending. The game was surprisingly peaceful, bar a few outliers who decided to go on killing sprees. Of course, those people I am looking out for, and one of the primary reasons I bought an AR-15. That's Armalite rifle. Semi-automatic rifle. It's not an assault weapon. Our findings show that there are no apparent pandemic behavior changes, but some outliers are more likely to exhibit antisocial behavior like killing, stealing, etc. We also found to the contrary that the reassuring adage that even if I knew the world was going to pieces tomorrow, I would still plant my apple tree. Players abandon their character progression, showing a drastic decrease in quest completion, leveling, and abilities. Basically, they just sat it out. They just said, well, it's over soon. I'm just going to have fun. I'm not going to try to get the degree or buy a house or have children. Just chill. You probably won't spend much time on self-improvement, and that's true. I try to encourage my subscribers to take care of their health and, continue, achieving their goals, whatever they may be in the short term. But the players who stayed on to the end of the game, i.e. me, tended to be the most peaceful, perhaps having the most loyalty to the game, a loyalty to life. Meanwhile, people who left the game earlier on their own volition, the team called churners, tend to exhibit the most antisocial behavior, such as killing players. They lost their responsibility and attachment to the game, I would say life. And there's going to be people like that. I know people that have already taken their lives, just given up, exited the game. So they do want to stress it was limited by the fact that it took place inside of a video game, and the end of this world was fairly peaceful. They knew it, and at times even positive, with emergence of pro-social behavior towards the end. Our world is not going to be like that. It's going to be treacherous and destructive and not peaceful. So I can give some stock to this study, at least a little bit. Our findings that the sentiment of social grouping, specific chat channels trend towards happier at the end times approach is the first indication of this pro-social behavior. Existing social relationships are likely to be strengthened, the team concluded. Further, we saw that players that stayed until the end of the world exhibited peaks and the number of small temporary groupings. New social relationships are being formed. It's published in the Proceedings of the 26th International Conference on World Wide Web Companion. Not peer-reviewed. Don't think it really needs to be. Just a little experiment. And here we are, my channel with over 1,100 subscribers. A new social group around the end. Moving on. There's simulation sets provide insights for Earth's future. I'm not going to go this in great detail, but urban flood, heat, storm surges, polar vortices, droughts, and wildfires. Many casual conversations these days seem to open with the anecdotes about weather and, unfortunately, the effects of changing climate on the energy, environment, infrastructure, and economy and people. Yada, yada. So we're trying to have U.S. projections here, there, everywhere, across space and time, says Paul Ulrich, a professor of regional climate modeling at University of California, Davis. So they took modeling and projected out 80 years into the future. And even if this is a minimum, the historic heat wave in 2012, this is what it would look like in 2052 and 2092. Basically, everyone's fried to death here, there. I mean, it's just going to become unbearable. And I'm not going to go into much detail on this. It's very data-oriented, but you can check out the paper on this. They're building a site with simulations showing their data sets, what they can expect in temperature, precipitation, wind speed. You can go off of this yourself, TGW data, msdlive.org, or just type in TGW simulations. Not going to go through that now. That's a whole nother video. We can't get our methane under control still. New climate rules fail to target nearly 90% of global methane emissions, and I am aware that the bill provision for this debt default ceiling, the Republicans, someone pointed out to me, Tanner, I think, or somebody, that they want to cut funding to renewables. They literally want to keep the fossil fuel extractive system itself going. Not that renewables don't require extractive system, they do, but they just want to stick with the good old-fashioned coal. And it belches from livestock operations, rice paddies. It's 25 times as powerful as carbon dioxide. First comprehensive assessment of methane found that policies only cover about 13% of the methane being released globally. So it's surprising, says a PhD candidate at Queen Mary University, especially given the fact that we know exactly what we need to be to be closer to the trajectory that is compatible with net zero targets. Make you want to puke, huh? So it only sticks around about 12 years, but extremely powerful. And we have to cut methane emissions by 45% by 2030. Would result in would avert 0.3 of global heating by 2045. Except we're not. We're not doing anything. We're barely even trying. We have people in our government that are literally fighting against this. Christians want us to burn all up in flames so we can go to heaven and hang out with Jesus. 40% of the methane emissions could be limited at no net cost to the industry, according to U.S. Energy and Infrastructure, but we have a long way to go. Of course, we're such an early stage. Frankly, that's the energy sector, except we're not even trying. Okay, we can't even. Just forget about it. Big trouble. How could we forget about Mr. Bill McGibbon? How could we forget about this chap?
Meat sauce.
Big trouble in the deep. World's oceans are heating up very, very, very fast. What? Very clickbaity title. Remember, people, this is an experiment we haven't run before. In the test tube, we're using the whole planet. Is it, Bill? Go eat your muffin. Okay, look. You don't even need to read his crap. Right? That's an anomaly. Big gap. Even scarier. Can't be predicted. This is an experiment. Alright? Now we have to organize as never before. Oh, do we? I saw the father at Dunkin' Donuts with an America tattoo on his arm, but instead of stripes, It was rifles, AR-15s, and various different rifles. And he has a daughter about 12 years old with him, maybe 8 or 12 years old. You know, what am I supposed to say to him? He doesn't even believe in it. We have to organize his narrative for shut up, Bill. Just can it. Alrighty. This has been your May 22nd What's Happening in the World report. Feel free to donate to this channel. I'm going live on Illinois Green Party tonight. I'll post the link later. And I appreciate you, Doomers. Have a good week. Talk to you soon.